It all started in December 2021. A theory surfaced online that shook the political elite. Was French First Lady Brigitte Macron hiding something about her past? At first, it was dismissed as just another online rumor. But as more people dug into the details, it became impossible to ignore. Strange inconsistencies, missing records, and old photos that didn't quite add up. Soon the theory wasn't just circulating in fringe circles. It was gaining mainstream attention.
It is time for you to wake up. So we will start from the top here with a photo of Brigitte Macron. Real name, Jean-Michel Trogneux. That person that you are looking at on the right is not a woman. Okay? Here is a photo, by the way, just over the years, Jean-Michel Trogneux, as he became Brigitte. As I said, the evidence for this is overwhelming. That second photo, I believe they found a photo of him at a pride parade when he was just living as a homosexual man. That next photo is when the transition began, if I recall correctly, and that's a photo from the professor years. And the professor years of Brigitte Macron is when he statutorily Emmanuel Macron. Those are not the prerequisites, by the way. Like, to becoming a leader of a world country, you gotta be in drama class, like Zelensky. You gotta be a homosexual, like a lot of them tend to be. And are the new prerequisites that you need to have something in your closet like this and the entire state is gonna work feverishly to protect the secret?
Why is there almost no information about her early years? This is insane. If this were false, why aren't they just addressing it instead of trying to shut it down? What makes this theory so explosive is the fact that Brigitte Macron is not just a political figure's spouse, she's a symbol of the French elite. The public has a right to question, but their voices are being silenced. As the theory picked up steam, the Macron family didn't ignore it. They went on the attack. Instead of transparency, they turned to legal threats.
I don't know that this has ever happened in the history of the world, involving a president and a journalist mom in America. Where do I begin? Yesterday, I received a letter, and I would say that plausibly changed the trajectory of this year, certainly for me. I don't know why people keep sending me letters. Strongly worded letter, essentially a legal threat. Even stranger was who it was coming from. It was coming from a law firm representing current sitting president, Emmanuel Macron, and his wife, Brigitte Macron. Okay? Like I said, this is insane. I don't think this has ever happened in the history of the world. Plausibly, you don't hear about a foreign leader currently sitting in power, sending around legal letters to people that are sitting in other countries, no matter what that person is saying. They strenuously requested that I not publicize it. They did not want me to publicize this letter all over it. This is not meant to be publicly disseminated. Okay, you have no legal right to tell somebody that they can't share a letter that they received. I'm sorry you sent it. I have a right to share it.
These are hateful lies. We will take legal action against those responsible. Rather than addressing the theory directly, the Macron team chose the path of intimidation. They sent legal letters to anyone daring to bring the issue up, demanding an end to the discussion. I've just received a cease and desist letter from the Élysée Palace, ordering me to stop reporting on the theory. This is a dangerous precedent. But the attempt to quash the conversation only made it more compelling. When those in power try to silence something, the people start wondering, what are they trying to hide? So let me get this straight. The President of France is personally threatening me with legal action over a theory. That should tell you everything you need to know. Rather than being intimidated, Candace Owens refused to back down. In fact, she amplified the conversation, drawing more eyes to the unfolding drama. By taking on the Macron family's legal threats, she made herself the focal point of a much larger debate. This is what they do, isn't it? They threaten anyone who asks questions, trying to shut down any debate. But here's the truth. They can't stop people from thinking for themselves. Instead of cowering, Candace Owens used the legal threats as a badge of honor, turning the tables on the Macron family. The more they tried to silence her, the more people started to listen.
They realize that a lot is not adding up, and one by one, these independent journalists and researchers begin to suffer. First and foremost, this is a true story, and again, all this will be in our little mini series about Brigitte. There was a woman named Isabella Ferreira, right? I'm showing you a picture of her. She used to be, what do they call them? The jaune gilets, which I think yellow vest in French. 56-year-old woman who was investigating Emmanuel and Brigitte. She was deemed to be one of the earliest to discover that the age gap between them was not being accurately reported by the mainstream media. And then she said she had landed upon something even bigger and started making phone calls to alert others that actually Brigitte, as she was saying, could still be prosecuted for the crime of having slept with a minor or had relations with somebody who was 15 years old under the new law, okay? 2 weeks later, this Isabella Ferreira is found dead. Okay, she was drowned in a dam. The investigators admit that she was still alive when she slipped into the ocean. The media was saying, oh, she took some pills, she was bipolar, she was depressed. That's what happened. Even though she had been making phone calls days earlier asking for people to meet with her regarding this investigation. And in fact, one of her friends posted on Facebook, his name is Luca, and he wrote a very long post, which you can go and find, but this is the most compelling element. He did not buy the accidental suicide story. He wrote, these days, she was focused on the sexual assaults of the teacher, Brigitte Trogneau, towards the minor pupil, Emmanuel Macron. The revelation that she claimed to have and about which she had told me was that the prescription 30 years, he's referring to the statute of limitation, 30 years after the majority, meaning the age in which you can give consent for sexual assaults against minors, allowed Emmanuel Macron to file a complaint against Brigitte. So again, that's loosely translated, and he's saying that like she had discovered the statute of limitations was not up. In fact, it is true. It is not up. It will be up at the end of this year, 2025. But then she committed suicide in a very strange way. Most people don't jump and try to drown themselves. I think it's almost impossible. I think I read somewhere that it's almost impossible to drown yourself because your brain will just automatically come to the surface. I don't know, whatever. That's what happened. That was how it was reported in the media.
The French government's actions against Candace Owens have sparked global outrage. Should world leaders be allowed to dictate what people in other countries can talk about? What we're seeing here is a serious overstep by the Macron family. They have no right to dictate the discourse in another nation. This is a blatant example of how power can be abused. In a democracy, you should be able to discuss whatever you want, especially if it involves public figures. The Macrons are trying to shut that down. Candace Owens isn't just a target here. This is about everyone who questions authority. If we don't stand up for this, we lose the right to question anything. The legal threats sparked a firestorm of debate worldwide. More and more people began to ask, if the Macron family is so desperate to silence this theory, what could they be hiding? If Macron thinks he can scare me into silence, he's got another thing coming. This isn't just about me, this is about all of us, about whether we have the right to ask questions, to investigate, and to challenge the people who rule over us. Candace refused to back down, and in doing so, she became a symbol of resistance against political intimidation. The more they tried to suppress the truth, the harder it fought to get out.
Even the ages that they were presenting to the public were not correct of when they fell in love. Is that right?
A senior journalist in French public television wrote a book proposing and confronting all the narratives about how they met. This included information that Brigitte Macron had been his theater professor, not his French professor, and that he was in fact 14 and she 39 when they initially met. So in essence, it was a case of an adult involved with a minor. We were able to collect 5 exclusive photos of Jean-Michel Trogneau from the past, all in coherence, proving that Brigitte Macron is Jean-Michel Trogneau. From these, the age difference is actually greater. It is in fact a 14-year-old boy who initially met someone aged 47.
Wow.
So I assert to the public that Brigitte Macron is a man named Jean-Michel Trogneau who was born on February 11th, 1945.
What Macron did was a mistake. He made it so much worse by trying to stop the conversation. It's only fueled more curiosity. This isn't just about the Macron family anymore. This is about free speech and the right to ask questions, no matter how uncomfortable. In their attempt to silence the conversation, the Macrons only made it explode. Interest in the theory skyrocketed. Suddenly, people who had never heard of it before were now deep diving into the details, asking questions the media refuse to touch. The fact that they're trying to silence this theory makes me think there's truth to it. Every time someone tries to censor information, it just makes me more curious. What are they hiding? Why do those in power fear open discussion? Why do they resort to legal threats instead of transparency? What are they hiding? You decide.